Hey everyone, you're watching We Had That, and in this video I'm going to talk about the 1978 Star Wars Stormtrooper action figure who was released as part of the original wave of 12 action figures by Kenner. I remember going with my family to see Star Wars when it was in the theaters, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was the greatest movie I'd ever seen. So when a friend of mine brought his new Star Wars figures to school with him one day, I absolutely had to have some of my own. I still remember standing in the toy store looking at the display of figures and being told that I could only get 4. It was a tough decision, but I chose Chewbacca, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, and C-3PO. All 12 of the first figures that Kenner released for Star Wars were absolutely awesome. I loved them all, but my favorite was probably the Stormtrooper. I'd always thought the Stormtrooper costumes had been cool in the movie, and the Star Wars trading cards with Stormtroopers on them were some of my favorites. After a while, I began to want more Stormtrooper figures. Although we didn't have a name for it at the time, that was the first time I'd ever thought about army building a single figure. I only ever had 4 of the original Stormtrooper, but that was enough to feel like I had a decent-sized group. Unlike some of the Star Wars figures that were made in the likeness of characters that only had a small role in the movie, the Stormtroopers appeared almost constantly throughout A New Hope. Aside from the Rebel troops, who were notably missing from Kenner's action figure collection, the Stormtroopers are the first characters we see in the movie. From the opening scene when the Stormtroopers blast their way onto Leia's ship, to the final battle with Stormtroopers running around the Death Star, this white armored army can be seen all over the Star Wars universe. As a kid, I didn't think a lot about the packaging. I usually ripped my figures out of their package on the car ride home. But as an adult, I think the packaging art for the Stormtroopers is absolutely awesome. Even the package art is a subtle nudge to buy more than one Stormtrooper. The Stormtrooper action figure also came with a great blaster. The same blaster was included with a bunch of other figures, the Death Star Commander, Hammerhead and Walrus Man, the Imperial Commander, Boba Fett and IG-88, and the Luke Skywalker figure wearing a Stormtrooper outfit. Yet despite all of those other figures coming with one, I still think of that as a Stormtrooper blaster. Back then, no one knew the history of the Stormtroopers. No one knew that the clone troopers of the Clone Wars were the precursor to the Stormtrooper, and that many of those clone troopers went on to become instructors for the Stormtroopers, or that despite a relatively small number of the clone troopers going on to become Stormtroopers themselves, that the Stormtroopers' ranks were mostly made up of volunteers who had heard glorified accounts of the legacy of the clones, or those required to enlist. Most of us probably never gave it much thought, and the fact that Stormtroopers had been stationed all across the galaxy to enforce the rule of the Empire went right over our heads. We just knew they looked cool, and they were the bad guys. What do you think of the original Stormtrooper action figure? Did you have a Stormtrooper figure as a kid? How many? If so, how did he fit into your adventures? Do you remember what you thought of him at the time? Has your opinion of him changed over time? Tell me in the comments below. Also, please give this video a thumbs up and share it on social media. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notifications bell so that you'll be notified when I post new videos. And one last thing, if you're a fan of toys, you should know about ToyLanta, the biggest toy show in the southeastern United States, held annually just north of Atlanta, Georgia. Visit ToyLanta.com for more information. As always, thanks for watching.